Do you think that coaches now that help CEOs, executive workers, and just people in general meet their resistance and help them along the way through that transformational journey will become essential? I feel like they will just become essential. Everyone needs a coach. Hi guys, in this video, we're going to be talking about meeting your resistance and finding out your triggers. What happens when you actually encounter resistance? What happens when you actually encounter friction in your life, in the whole transformational process that occurs when you want to change something, when you want to do something new, when you want to take on a new task in life, when you want to take on a new endeavor. What actually happens? What prevents us from getting from point A to point B? All those moments in the middle of that journey, that is resistance. It is all those moments of discomfort, of change, of times when we don't really feel like we know what we're doing. It's moments when we rationalize to ourselves that we don't want to do the thing that we know it's most important. All these things go into the whole transformational journey, but it all comes down to meeting this resistance that we have. And in this video, I'm going to explain a bit about triggers, what happens when we meet them, and how it's so different in every single type of scenario. As an indoor cycling coach, one of the biggest things that we had to do was to teach other coaches how to break resistances they had in order to be able to be loud up on stage. They had to be able to express themselves. They had to be able to order people around. They had to be nice. They also had to be able to juggle music, lights, and all these different things. It's a whole thing a coach has to do. But a coach cannot remain the same if they want to become good at it. Or except when they first start, they cannot remain the same. They cannot remain the same way they are when they start, going towards becoming good. If they want to become good, they have to change something about themselves, and that usually involves them overcoming barriers that they have, frictions that they have, resistance that they have to becoming that person. And training these coaches to do the job, we had to cultivate a culture where you were okay with making fun of yourself. You were okay with looking silly. You were okay with being comfortable with being a beginner, a student, being a noob at something. It was always something that we placed a lot of importance on, because we knew that part of becoming a coach, part of becoming a leader, part of becoming a very expressive human being, part of becoming different is you have to break this sort of the character armor that you've created for yourself in order to keep yourself protected from the unknown. Whereas when you become a coach, when you want to become that person, you have to venture into the unknown. And that usually triggers something in us that makes us really vulnerable, really scared, because we don't like going into the unknown. We don't like going into a place that we're not familiar with. Human beings are creatures of familiarity. We're creatures of constants. We like things that are repeated. We like developing habits. We don't like doing new things, or at least our monkey brain doesn't like it, because we don't know where the next meal is going to come. We don't know evolutionarily where we're going to feel safe. We don't know what we might be getting into that could cause danger. We don't know what we might get into that could change the current situation that we like so much. And so in terms of breaking that for a new coach, we had to cultivate a whole culture where we were okay with making fun of ourselves and okay with being silly in front of each other. And yes, it's true that as a coach, you don't want to make that your whole life. Like I can be silly, I can be this. You have the capacity to break that resistance all the time. You have the capacity to change yourself in order to become a new transformed version of you. This was something that, so many people that I met along their own journey is they had so much resistance to various different things. They had so much resistance to being able to tell someone what to do. Just order someone, hey, get on the ground, do 20 push-ups right now, do it. Something as simple as that. And sometimes it can come off as a bit aggressive. And sometimes the way we communicate to other people, that is sometimes how we would communicate to ourselves. When we dish out advice to people when they say they have a problem, when we just give them advice without actually asking them, hang on, tell me more. And we just say, oh, I think you should do this. I think you should totally try this thing because it worked for me and it could work for you. We always give people the advice we would give ourselves if we were in the same scenario. given we don't have the same the same variables as the same person in the same situation, we would do the advice that we would do, that we are giving to that person in that same scenario if we were in. And so if you're ordering people around, you sometimes feel like you're ordering yourself around. You sometimes feel like, why would I do that? Why would I tell people to do it like that? But you have to do that because sometimes in a class, sometimes people need to sort of just get whipped back into focus. Like, hey, you said you wanted to do this. You said you wanted to work out today. You said you wanted to push yourself. Well, here you are right now. What are you going to do about it? And the coach has to be able to lead people on that journey. And even though people hate it in the beginning, they almost always appreciate the coach that gets them out of their comfort zone, that pushes them a little bit further. Even though if you meet someone who's doing, 50 push-ups and they're on the 41, 42, and you say, come on, and it's just like, get out of my face. Like, no. Because it's so uncomfortable, because when we are sort of squeezed by our resistance, when we are squeezed by friction, what comes out is not the perfect version of ourselves. It's not the same calm, collected version of ourselves. It's actually something completely different. When you see people, having worked in the fitness industry for so long, whenever I've pushed people, the person that I meet when they are at that breaking point, the person that I meet when they're not feeling like themselves, they're not feeling comfortable, they're not feeling attractive, they're not feeling great, if you try and motivate them sometimes, they just get aggressive. They just like, get out of it, leave me alone. And in that moment, a coach has to know when to just back off. Like, okay, this person, I trust that this person knows what they're doing. I trust that this person can push themselves adequately. It's fine. I'm only here to just relay information. I'm only here to help people along that journey. I'm only here to help people, put them in that situation, and then give them words of affirmation, helpful reframing of the situation of like, I know it's painful, I know it sucks, I know it hurts, but this is what growth is like. This is what happens when you want to change something about your life. This is what happens when you meet friction and you want to keep going and you want to stay in that discomfort and you want to stay improving yourself. That is one of the really interesting things about, the self-development industry is like people that go on these journeys, people that want to change something about themselves. It's never comfortable. It's such a hard thing to sell because it's actually very uncomfortable to get someone to say, hey, look, you're gonna pay me for me to get you so far out of your comfort zone that you change something about yourself. And so people obviously love to transform themselves. They love the idea. They love the aspect of like, yeah, I love that I'm evolving. I love that I'm changing. But when it comes to the difficult moments, I don't want anyone to see me failing. I don't want to look like a fool in front of everyone. I don't want to look silly. I don't want to look like I don't know how to do this. And I don't want to look like I'm uncomfortable with changing myself. I want to look like I'm fine. I'm great. And it's a very hard thing to sell. It's a hard thing to tell people to pay for consistently because it's so uncomfortable. And a lot of people, they can have a burst of motivation and they can have a real, maybe a few weeks, a few months, or maybe even a couple of years or 1 year of where they feel great and they feel transformative and they feel like they can do it and they can keep going. But then after a while, people fall off because the journey, after a while, the discomfort, you don't want to stay in discomfort. You don't want to keep that pain going on. You want to develop comfort after the discomfort. If you're trying a new skill, you want to get so good at this skill and repeat and repeat and repeat until it becomes easy. But then what happens if you stay doing that skill for years and years and years? You don't continue evolving. So you never learn the new skills after that. And that becomes a problem for people that want to change, but they're also just so comfortable with staying the same because they're doing so well. If you learn a new skill and you benefit so well from it, then if I were to ask you again, keep going, try a new skill, you'd be like, no, why? I'm already doing so well. I'm already fine. I'm already great. I'm already enjoying this. Why would I put myself through this again? Again, that's resistance, and that's the form of justification that resistance can carry. The trigger that you find in those moments is, it's not a trigger like, I say something offensive to you and you get triggered by it. A trigger can be anything that you find justifiable. For example, if you say to yourself something, I want to do X, and then as soon as you get to a difficult point, like too difficult that you go back, you just met your trigger and you just let that trigger push you away. The way you responded to that trigger was, I found it, and the way I responded was, I regressed from it. I just withdrew from that friction. I didn't want to continue because it was uncomfortable. And I don't want to spend time in the discomfort. You don't always have to spend time in the discomfort, but what's really important to understand about your own transformational journey is if you want to improve, you have to understand your triggers. And your triggers can come in various different ways. The triggers that resistance gives you, it makes you feel uncomfortable. You start justifying it. I don't know, how, like one way or another, you're going to start justifying why you shouldn't do the thing you said you were going to do, and why maybe it's not, you know, the right circumstances for you to do it. It's not the right time. It's not the right place. It's this, it could happen. I'm not feeling that great. All those things, they are all triggers. They are all triggers of the version of you that's finding discomfort in doing the thing that you said you were going to do, that you know is going to help you in life, that you know is going to improve you. And it's so difficult in those moments because it seems so gentle. It seems so harmless. Like, oh, it's fine. I don't have to film a YouTube video today because I feel sleepy and I need to be energetic to do a YouTube video. So I'm just gonna lay in bed. I'm just gonna take a nap because I have things to do in the afternoon. And it doesn't really matter if I don't film. But then what happens is, like, all I'm doing is confirming to myself that I don't really want to do the thing I said I was going to do. I don't really want what I say I want. The thing I said I wanted and the place that I was going, I had to do this one thing and I didn't do it. I justified it to myself. I got triggered because of discomfort, because it's hard to film a YouTube video. Sometimes I feel like it has to take a lot of time. And sometimes I feel like it's not really worth doing today because I'm not feeling like I know what I'm gonna say. And that there is my trigger point. I would rather stay in my comfort zone. I would rather stay comfortable than actually achieve what I said I wanted to do, which was to build a YouTube channel. All these like this is one way of doing of it happening. Another way is, let's say you want to become an indoor cycling instructor, and you say to yourself, I want to become the greatest indoor cycling instructor ever. Okay, well, why don't you learn how to shout in a class in front of everyone, in front of people? Just shout out something like la lo la la lo li la la, anything. Just shout out anything crazy. Do it. Do it in front of all of us. There's 10 of us here. Do it. And you say, oh no, there's no way. Like, yeah, I mean, I don't really have to do that. Like, I don't want to be that kind of coach who's gonna shout dumb things like that. It's like, look, I don't need to, you don't have to do that. I just need to know that you are able to do it. That's it. But again, we would justify it to ourselves again and again and again and again and again, which is why it's actually really good to have a coach, because a coach will hold you accountable for the things that you said you wanted to do. It's good to have a friend who does that. It's good to have someone that we give permission to help us on that journey, that we give permission to assist us when the going gets tough and when we find our trigger points and we start regressing away from those trigger points. The friend comes in and says, yo, like, you have to check yourself because you said that you were going to do this. And I know it's difficult, but just get it done. Doesn't mean you have to do it perfectly. Just do it. Just do it so that you know you did it. Do it just because you don't want to do it. My father always used to tell me, like, when I was younger, he said, do things because you don't like to do it. Because that means that, you know, you are really, truly in control of yourself. He said that to me at a really young age. And I always felt that, I always remembered that every single time I had to do something I didn't want to do, I would hear that voice of his echoing in my brain. Do it because you don't want to do it. Do it just because that is you know, it's not for the outcome. It's not for the thing that you can't help it if the outcome you turn into the best cycling coach in the entire world. You can't help it if you actually achieve the goals that you want, because you're not in control of the outcome. All you're in control over is that moment when you face resistance and when you face your trigger, what do you do? What happens? Do you advance or do you regress? Do you retreat or do you just keep going? Do you just steamroll in? And you want to prove to yourself, you want to build up so much evidence to yourself that you have the capacity to consistently overcome those triggers and that resistance. And again, this can come in many, many, many different shapes or forms. I'm talking about this specifically for the indoor cycling coach or the person who wants to go through the transformative process, or person who says they want to do something and then as soon as they meet their resistance, they just don't want to do it. And how do I know that this is such a crazy good thing that people need to learn how to do? Well, because we live in a world right now where everything is so immediate. Everything is so fast. I want everything fast. I want social media fast. I want my products to get to my house faster. I want everything faster. When I speak to someone, if they don't give me the right amount of dopamine while I'm talking to them, I can't hold this conversation. I can't hold my attention. I can't hold my focus on you. And so what happens is people just, it seems like people just go from one thing to another to another. Oh, I want to do this now. Oh, it's too difficult. I'm going to go to this thing. Okay, I'm going to go to that thing. Oh, it's too difficult. Oh, it's not for me. And people end up trying just like beep, 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 without saying like, hang on, I'm going to focus on this. I'm going to double down and focus on this thing that I'm wanting to do. And yes, there are going to be moments that are difficult. I'm going to overcome them. There are going to be things that trigger me, that make me think that I don't want to do this, that make me think that it's too difficult, that make me think that it's impossible. Those are just triggers. That's just yourself. That's just your own self-dialogue that you're having, that you're telling yourself, oh, it's too difficult, it's too hard, it's too this. Most of the things that people want to do in their lives, people have already done. You know, if you want to build a successful business, there are many thousands, millions of different, hundreds of thousands of different templates you could take from throughout history of people who have built successful businesses. You just have to follow those. And I'm sure it wasn't easy. I'm sure they had to face resistance themselves. But if you were sincere about actually doing the thing that you wanted to do, you would look at those people and you would just follow them. It's not impossible. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Most of the things you want to do in your life, they've already been done. The templates of success already exist. You just have to seek them out. But what's stopping you is yourself, is your resistance, are your triggers, is the discomfort that you're feeling anytime you have to do something. And in the world nowadays, we can't be a race that just doesn't value this, like doesn't value that you have to go through discomfort, that you have to sharpen the sword, your own sword. You have to wet the rock and sharpen the blade so that you can cut through life and do things better. It doesn't have to be easy. It doesn't have to be frictionless, but you have to be able to find those resistances that you have in your life and overcome them, and not be fazed by, oh my God, I'm going to face resistance. I'm going to face discomfort. I'm going to face this. I'm going to lose focus. I'm going to lose attention. No, you're going to stay on it. You're going to focus and you're going to keep going. Meeting resistance and acknowledging our triggers is something that I feel like it's just going to become a very, very important thing throughout the world, because I do think that coaches, especially I was an indoor cycling coach, but I do look at the things that I taught, I learned from being an indoor cycling coach in terms of self-development, in terms of meeting resistance, in terms of finding pain points and improving on them. And then being really real with myself about, like, am I actually improving? Am I being sincere with my self-development? Am I sincere with receiving feedback and actually changing something about myself? Or am I just remaining the same? You know, and every coach has to go through this, but it's been a really interesting journey to see this happen. And I do think that coaches now that help CEOs, executive workers, and just people in general, meet their resistance and help them along the way through that transformational journey will become essential. I feel like they will just become essential. Everyone needs a coach. It doesn't matter who you are. Even Cristiano Ronaldo, Messi, two of the greatest football players that ever lived, they had coaches. They became better with different coaches. They were good with some coaches and they were really bad with some coaches. Some coaches changed their careers. Other coaches destroyed their careers. And so having someone that you trust to help you on that journey is very important. I do think every business in the future is going to have this, because as we go sort of towards everyone becoming influencers and social media, AI, this whole thing where you can actually just work for yourself, given that you have enough experience, given that you have enough learning, given that you have enough value that you can create out of the things you know, the personality that you have, the lifestyle that you're living. If you can create enough value, it's very easy to become an entrepreneur. But then when you do become an entrepreneur, the only thing that's in your way is you. That's it. And so I'm going to finish this video with that. The only thing that's in your way is you. And I do feel like coaches are going to be a very, very important part of the future. Coaches that help you meet your resistance, help break free of the frictions, the barriers that you've set for yourself, and help you overcome your triggers, help you acknowledge and overcome your triggers. So I hope this video helped you guys a lot. I will see you guys in the next one. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you guys soon.